viewers, Bucks Gas Garage again. Been a bit of a while since our last update due to the COVID situation and things like that. So thought I'd just do a bit of a run round. We've got a beautiful winter's day today and just give you an update on all the vehicles. So please enjoy. So we've got a bit of new technology today on the channel. I invested in a selfie stick here with a remote control, so yeah, it just gives you a bit of a different view on things, and you can sort of see around the shed here. This is the shed for the Mustang and so on, a few different pieces and that sort of thing, just to give you a bit more of an idea. Unfortunately this shed is a bit small and it's a bit cramped, but you can see here I've got the essentials, the workbench, and you know, all the tools and things. That's my old apprentice, you can see there, my old apprentice toolkit there that I had when I was fitter and turner, and various workbenches, tools and bits and pieces. So just a bit more insight into yeah, Bucks Gas Garage. So we'll start off with the Mustang today. Look, it's can't argue, it's pretty much been unstoppable. The car hasn't had any issues at all over the last few months. We do have a photo shoot coming up shortly with Hunter Media. My wife bought me a little gift voucher to do a photo shoot with the car. So yeah, apart from that, there's been no issues with the car at all. Hasn't needed any work done on it. I think at the moment we're sort of sitting on around about 98,000 miles. We can just have a look now and see what we've got. Zoom in here. 98,937 miles on the clock. We believe that these are the original kilometres for the car, or miles I should say. It was restored as in previous videos in 2007 when it just before it came into the country, but look, pretty faultless, you know, driveline 289, 4-speed, top loader, 9-inch diff, can't really go wrong, pretty indestructible. Next one off the mark is the old WB. Again, you know, pretty solid vehicle. Not much needed here, just she's had an oil change. We did have a bit of an issue with coolant, so now any of you using Newlon concentrate coolant, just be aware that if the mix is over 50%, you can have a pretty serious problem with leaks with the older hoses and hose clamps and that sort of thing, but apart from that, pretty good. As you can see here, she's looking pretty tidy. She had her annual wash, which you'll see in a couple of pics. I try and only wash this one once a year, seeing these WBs are so prone to rust. So there's the usual issues with this one, which I'll show you now. So as mentioned previously, this unit's never been painted. It's in its original paint, and pretty much very original. So as you can see here, these are one of the areas that are prone to rust in the WB, where the chrome seal can scratch the paint on the windscreen. Another area that's not too flash on these is the back quarters, which you can see there's a slight bit of rust down there near the rear mud flap and things. Also just in front of the rear wheel arch here. One thing I do to combat this is cover it in fish oil. You can see it leaking. That's actually leaked from the inside panels to the out, so the rust hasn't gone any further since I've owned it. Also along here you can see a couple of little bubbles there. Bottom of the doors, which these ones are pretty much perfect, and the bottom of the guards. But you can see up here we've got a little bit of action going along here. Hasn't broken through the paint yet, but something that'll have to be looked at in the future. Not too keen on, because I obviously don't want to respray the vehicle, but obviously if you leave these things they tend to get worse. At the moment the little donk seems to be pretty sweet. no undue noises, just a tiny little bit of lifter rattle from one of the lifters, but nothing unusual for a 253. They'll run like this for hundreds of thousands of kilometres, but apart from that, everything else was pretty good. Well, we better give her a fire up and have a bit of a note check. So the next vehicle off the list is the Ford Territory. Things have been pretty good here. Mind you, the wife did say it was having a little bit of trouble starting with the season change. Didn't think too much of it, but the battery was getting towards 5 years old, which is about the life of the batteries these days, depending on what brand you buy. It did throw every single warning light on the dashboard. Glow plugs, ABS, traction control, every single light came on the dashboard. So what I think happened is that the battery was actually holding voltage, but had actually collapsed and lost a cell. So as soon as you try and crank it, the starter motor would try and engage and click in and click out. But I'll show you that battery now. So here we have the battery. This is the original Motorcraft battery that came with the car. Now, I've actually never seen this happen before, but the battery actually vented, and I don't know if you can see it here, but it's split right across the seam and it leaked battery acid everywhere. Now, luckily with the Ford Territory, there's a plastic tray underneath it which will catch the battery acid. So it pretty much like a fuel bowser, it has a bunker sort of arrangement around it to catch the full amount of acid, so this can be lifted out easily. So here we have the new battery. I do normally use Delcor batteries if I can, but at this stage all the shops were closed and I couldn't get anything apart from the standard Autobarn, Repco, Super Cheap Auto. So what I decided on was the top of the range Repco battery, normally about $300. Got some decent cranking amps there, 660 cranking amps. As you'll see there, 30-month warranty, made by Century, apparently better than what they were, made in Australia. But haven't had a lot of luck with Century batteries in the past, but with a 30-month warranty, we'll see how this one goes. But the car did all its updates when the new battery was installed, so everything was good. So currently we're sitting on about 95,000 kilometres at the moment. It's had its last service, which was done not long ago. Everything appears good, slight little bit of coolant use, but nothing that's alarming. Still above the low mark, so all's pretty good with the car. The tyre wear, as mentioned on the last update video, tyre wear was done. All the tyre wear looks nice and even across the tyres there, as you can see, after the wheel alignment. Hasn't done a hell of a lot of kilometres because of COVID, so the wife's been at home and hasn't been doing a lot of work, so not much more to say about the Territory there. Yeah, but all's good at 95,000 kilometres. So the next one's the Nissan Navara here, the work ute. It's almost been a year since we picked this one up. Look, can't say anything against it. It's been faultless, not a single problem. Everything seems to be pretty good. Just one minor item I did notice with the vehicle. It hasn't had its first service, but they mentioned this to me when I bought it. Because it has 20,000 k service intervals, which to me is far too long, they did say, look, rotate the tyres front to back. So as you can see here, doesn't look too bad there, the tyre tread, but if we come down and have a look at the rears, which I swapped at about 12,000 k's, you'll notice Yeah, fair bit of wear on the edge. So these were originally the front tyres, swapped over at about 12,000 k's, but apart from that, no issues. As you'll see here, you can see 16,834 kilometres. As mentioned, not a single issue with the vehicle. You'll see here on the service sticker, if I can get it in there, probably won't focus on it, but it's due for a service in about 10 days. If we just run through a couple of the menus here, she's averaging, as you can see there, might be a little out of focus, but 8 litres per 100. Now that's around town on the highway. Best I've had it down to was a trip down to Gippsland, which was over 600 kilometres in one go, in a 100 kilometre zone most of the time, sometimes 110. It got down to about 7.6 was the best it did. So look, you know, the range is very good on these vehicles. Problem is with the fuel tank, I can only ever get about 63-64 litres into it. I think it's meant to be an 80 litre tank. Just gets a little bit annoying that the fuel reserve light comes on at 150 kilometres to the tank empty, beeping and orange lights and so on. So that's probably about my only complaint. Comfortable. It's been driven on dirt roads, corrugated roads, and I tell you what, it outhandles the Hilux that I was following, brand new Hilux. The rear suspension absolutely soaks up the bumps a lot better than a Hilux, but still a Hilux fan at the end of the day. But yeah, these Navaras, there's not much that I can say that's too bad in the first 16,800 k's. The previous Navara D40 that I had is still going. It's got nearly 330,000 kilometres on it. Okay, so at this stage we might put the Mustang away and take the WB for a spin to go and see the other cars and see what's happening with those. So here we have the other two girls of the fleet, both been in hibernation for probably a couple of months at the moment. We seem to have a bit of an issue here with getting them out of the shed. If anyone's like us with our lawns, you'll notice there's a hell of a lot of capeweed and there's a bit of a hill to getting these two vehicles out of this garage. So at the moment, both of them are stuck in here until we can get the lawns down and do a bit more work on trying to get these vehicles out of here. So they're sort of summer weather cars anyway, but let's have a look. So last time we saw the 365, I think she might have had a bit of work done to her, but at the moment what's happened since, if you haven't had the update, basically new tyres are on. She did have a little bump in the front a few years ago, and we did have that repaired, but it's probably not exactly the way we want it. You'll see this guard here just had a slight touch, but you can notice that there is a bit of a slight colour difference, and also they've sprayed clear coat on it, which makes the finish too glossy. So that'll probably have to be re-looked at the future, probably rub it back, take the gloss out of the paint, which probably makes it look worse than what it is. Apart from that, there's also the exhaust that's been done since. This is the new rear tailpipes we had put on. A little bit hard to see here, obviously. They're the Answer style hot dog exhausts on both sides. So they certainly add to the note. Fortunately, we won't get it out today because the lawn's a bit wet to get it up the hill, but that's pretty much the updates on the old Ferrari at the moment. It's been sitting in here. I'll give you a mile update. Obviously, probably not much more than last time we had a look. What are we looking at here? 59,361. Sorry about the light, it's a bit dark in here. Seats have also been repaired underneath this. So the original seats, original leather, all restitched. That was another thing that was done recently. So the stitching had come undone, but this is the original leather, which is now drowned in leather protectant and so on, but it was very good that we didn't have to recover the seats. The upholsterer in Wodonga was extremely good with that, and we're quite surprised with it, but yeah, no, came up well. So here we have the XK140, and as you'll notice, rear wheels are just slightly dirty. That was our last attempt to remove the car from the garage. Look, the car's been running well. The new starter motor is in, high reduction starter motor, been running perfectly, so no issues with that. Also new radiator as well, new water pump. We had a failed bearing on the water pump. So it hadn't let go, but they do have a water drain, and it was starting to leak water out the drain to avoid going into the bearings. So at the moment it has a Mark II style water pump on it, because the XK140 ones are a bit hard to get hold of. So we just rerouted the heater pipes. That's basically the only difference. Interior wise, she's still as beautiful as ever with all her woodwork and leather and so on. Nothing done here apart from obviously soaking the seats in leather conditioner. We've also, with these hot summer months, we put a bucket of water in there to preserve the timber and keep the moisture up to the timber dash. So you can see here the new radiator in, also a thermo fan. Seems to be keeping the temperatures well under 100 now, especially in winter, but we were having a few problems in summer getting up close to 100 degrees. There's a possibility that we may put a catch tank on the car in the future for the coolant, or not necessarily a catch tank, but similar to what the Cobras has as a sort of a header tank, just to increase the capacity with these 45 degree days that we seem to get in Albury, and then also what we've had lately, -5. So yeah, pretty much the starter motor, after selecting all the gears, we had 3 different sets of gears for the starter motor. We picked the right one. The engagement is perfect. We greased the starter motor pinion gear, and the engagement is perfect. Apart from that, the clutch has probably been the only thing that needed adjustment, but all pretty good on this one. As you can see, it needs a bit of a wash because it was in the farm shed, but you probably noticed earlier, we've moved the cars from the farm shed because there's lots of junk in the shed. You'll notice we built a mezzanine floor just to hold all the junk so we could fit the two vehicles in this garage. So it just hopefully once they're clean and the covers are on them, they'll stay clean this time instead of getting dusted out at the farm. Alright guys, thanks for watching that episode of Buck's Gas Garage. Just a bit of an update while we all go through this COVID disaster that it is, and hopefully we'll be getting back to all the car shows and different vehicles like Winton and some of those sorts of videos shortly. So stay tuned, and hopefully we get some more entertainment to come.